Okay, well we're back to our session again, and here we've got our connecting rod that we've welded up, and we're now going to set it up and turn out the gudgeon pin hole at the top there. Now I'm going to do this on a lathe that I bought from a technical college. You know, we have a large Takasawa lathe that swings 750mm, and that's what I normally do my stuff on, but it's not a general lathe that everyone will get, or people restoring cars have access to. Somewhere in your club or something you have a lathe that'll swing about 10 inches, and that's what I have, and that's what I'm going to use. On that lathe we have an accessory called a faceplate. Just fits into the spindle with the dowels, cam lock, and it's accurately machined with a flat spot or flat face and a series of holes to bolt it down. I've got a piece of 75 by 10mm bar, and I've got it cut it long enough for us to put the connecting rod onto it, to clamp it on. And I found a piece of pipe here that I faced off, which is a good fit into the centre there. See that? Fits into the centre there, and I can take this off any time, work on it and put it back, and it goes back into the same spot. Very accurate. I can swing this around, a couple of holes here, drill them drill and tap half-inch Whitworth, and I can tap that through the back and bolt that on to prevent it from spinning. So it's very well fixed onto the lathe. So I go and do that, put it on the lathe, and I put it back in the lathe, and I drill the 3/8 hole in the centre. And that, if you can remember, takes the centre setup bolt here. Just taking it apart, putting that through there, through the back, setting that up there. It's just a simple drilling operation. We just drill that in the lathe, clamped onto the faceplate, and there we are. I can now put the connecting rod onto that. There. Okay, and we've now maintained that distance of 7.9 inches. So get a bit of chalk that up there, just put a bit of a mark on there, and remember this bar here, we're going to mount here exactly 7.9 inches from the centre, and drill a hole and lock that in place. So what I do is I just put that into the connecting rod there, lock it up, lock it in place there, put it on there, and I've got a tit on that. When I turned this mandrel here, I turned it to the same journal as the crankshaft, left a little tit in the centre there. I can put that on there and scribe a line there, and that gives me that 7.9 inches. Centre punch, I can very carefully centre that and drill a hole in it. Okay? There it is there, we've drilled a hole. We can now undo this . Not going to let me take it out. And bolt that onto there. And it's nice and square, and it's that distance. Now, it doesn't have to be within thousandths of an inch. We're going to set this up somewhere near here and bore that to the size of the gudgeon pin. Eventually we're going to white metal this bearing, and we're going to set the opposite up this end here, where we have a mandrel to hold the gudgeon pin, lock it in place, and then we're going to bore the big end there, big end bearing. with the white metal in it, and that's the next one of the next sections. But in this particular case, doing that, it doesn't matter if it's out a little bit, as long as we're somewhere within that centre there, and it's pretty good. We might be 10-15 thou out at the most, but the way we've set it up, it'll be pretty accurate. Now, to hold it in place, I've put this little spacer in here. It's just a piece of scrap bar that I've got about 25mm thick. I've drilled a couple of holes in it, and I've made up a bridge clamp here. And that will go down on top of that. So I'll just remove that centre pin. We can actually bolt this whole thing up now. Finished with the explanation. Couple of bolts there. It's a pretty tight fit. Lock that up there so that's nice and fixed in there, and then we lock this fellow up here. He's fixed in position. There we are. We can now put this on. There it is there, and it just goes down and hits that bridge spacer there. Now I can just nip those up, keeps that nice and square. Now these bearings, these white metal bearings have been pretty good. This motor hasn't had much use, but we're going to replace the white metal bearings. Now most times you'll find that those white metal bearings are worn out. Well, that's okay. If you melt out the white metal, or in this particular case take out the slippers, you're usually left with a machined surface there. See that? It's been machined, roughly machined. And you should be able to establish a diameter there which you can turn this mandrel for. So if you haven't got the white metal, you can just use this section here, and taking that out, I can probably get, you know, it's got a spacer in there or something, and with a little bit of trial and error when you're machining, something around 60, yeah, 2 1/8 of an inch or something like that, you should be able to establish a diameter and make this a mandrel here that size. I'm lucky because I've got, as I said, the bearing hasn't been worn, and I'm pretty good there. I can use that diameter to work everything out. But there's nothing to stop you from melting the white metal out and using the original machining. Now put that in there, tap that down very gently, and if I look down the side here, this is just this connecting rod is welded there. I'm on the weld, and it's a forging anyway. It's not very, it hasn't been machined, so there's only going to be one web here that's going to touch that. And I can see the back one is off about, oh, no more than about 10 thou, and this one here is hitting on the corner on the weld there. So that's okay, but I remember that, so when I put this bridge on here, this bridge clamp, and I'll probably do this in the lathe, finish tightening it up, I just bring it down so that I'm clamping on this bolt. Alright, we tighten that up, and of course when we tighten down on that bolt, it tightens, the bridge tightens up on the portion here on the web that's touching the spacer clamp underneath. And then leave that one and tighten this one. Okay, that pulls it down. If we tighten this one down, it tends to twist the connecting rod. And of course, once we undo it, it'll twist back again. It'll come back to its original state. But doing it this way, we prevent that. Now that's still a strong, that's just as strong a clamp. All the clamping force is down there, pushing that down onto the spacer underneath, so it won't move. Now, what I'm going to do is set this up in the lathe now, and I'll be able to move this across and get it in the right position before I tighten that clamp down. Once it's there, I can tighten it down. I find that's the easiest way to adjust it, to get its final, its final position. Okay, so here we are. Got it on our faceplate. We've got our bolts locked down. We've got our mandrel here for the big end locked down. We've got our bridge all in place. We can now go over to the lathe and set it up and turn out this to fit the gudgeon pin here. Let's do it.